Comedy at the Carlson has some great shows ahead in the new year, including one that has a ton of people excited this week. Actor and comedian Jay Mohr will be back for a series of shows starting tomorrow night, and we have the opportunity to talk with him this morning here on Good Day Rochester. Jay, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, my friend. I saw on the weather it's going to be 10 degrees Saturday. It's,
yeah.
you know how to welcome a guy.
Yeah, we
Thankfully,
do.
I fly with Bunsen burners in my pants.
There you go. Well, be thankful because earlier this week it was in the single digits, so at least we got double digits for you on Saturday. I'd be remiss if I didn't start by asking you about just the tragic passing of Bob Saget. I actually found a podcast you did with him about 10 years ago. Just if you can, share your memories of him and just what an incredible guy and comedian he was. I grew up with him on Full House and then later learned of his stand-up. But if you can, talk about Bob briefly.
Sure. Bob, he was just a good guy. He was just a good guy. You were always happy to see him. He was a great comedian. He was a good friend. And he had people don't know this, he had one of the darkest sense of humor.
Yeah.
Ever. He was doing my podcast. I remember my babysitter came back with my infant son and he started crying and he said, "Somebody just gave birth in your driveway." He was one of the fastest minds alive. It's a horrible loss, and but hey, that's what's great about comedy is you live presently even after you pass.
Yeah, and a lot of people celebrating him today, which is great. I want to ask you about your show, and I know that you've kind of taken a transition in your comedy, and you have a big focus on mental health, which I think is so important. And you talk about telling stories, and there's not always a punchline here, but you're taking people kind of on a journey.
Yeah, I've really become kind of a storyteller. I'm reluctant to say I'm a storyteller because I don't want people to get a preconceived notion of what they're going to see when they see my stand-up. And I focus on mental health because I have to. I have an obligation to carry a message. I belong to a few programs that end in A, and none of them have to do with eating. I was in rehab March and April of this year for a pill addiction. And now that I'm healthy today, I get to go out on stage and actually share my stories about being in rehab, being in detox, the insanity that my mind was in during my addiction. And I'm grateful I get to come back to Rochester. I got to be honest with you. I had a ball when I was in Rochester last. And it's just a really great comedy club, and it's great that you guys support it.
It's an incredible,
even in 10-degree weather.
Even in 10-degree, it is an incredible venue. The show I saw on your Instagram is called Straight Outta Rehab, and you talk about how sometimes it's uncomfortable for the audience when you confront these issues, but it really is. It's so important to talk about, not just for you, but really for your audience too, whether they realize it immediately or not, right?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because when I say it's uncomfortable for the audience, I just mean it's uncomfortable because I don't know anybody else that talks about what I talk about on stage. I never pick on the audience. That's important because people go to a comedy show, they sit in the front row and they're like, "Oh, great, he's going to kill us." And you ask somebody, "How you doing?" And the lady's like, "I have a bad ovary, move it along." It's like, "Whoa, easy, lady." So it's uncomfortable in the sense that they've never really seen these stories spoken about before, but it's definitely hilarious. It's not self-indulgent where I'm doing this big TED talk at the risk of not getting laughs. My job is to make people see the best stand-up comedy show they've ever seen.
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously people are there to have a good time, but you talk about confronting realities and telling the truth about your life and finding the humor in that. I wanted to ask you about SNL as well, because that had to be an incredible experience, and you wrote a fantastic book about what it was like on that show and confronting some issues you had while you were doing the show.
Yeah, my biggest issue was me getting in my own way, me being a petulant baby and being upset about not getting my way. You know, after I left the show, I was able to see that I really should have just hung around, waited my turn. However, when you leave a show and then get Jerry Maguire, you know, it kind of works out. But I got to work with Chris Farley every day and Adam Sandler, and I have no regrets. I'm really grateful. It got me pretty whip smart as far as doing weird. I just wish I had like my Tracy Morgan impression back then. I got so many weird impressions that I came on to after the fact. It would have been fun to go, yeah, live from New York. It's Saturday Night Live. Let's go get pregnant.
I love that. That is fantastic. Those have to be just incredible memories for you as well, looking back on that time and being a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best things that ever happened in my life. It was 2 years, you know, now that guys are dying, you know, Norm Macdonald, Chris Farley, Phil Hartman, it becomes more and more incredible and impossible that I live the life that I've lived, that I'm still alive after the amount of drugs I've done. I've done enough drugs to kill a Palomino horse, but not anymore, baby. Not today.
Well, and that honesty, I think, is so crucial. What do you enjoy about being up in front of an audience? So when you get in Rochester, you get on that stage for the first show. What do you feel when you're up there with that microphone and you've got the audience in front of you?
It's like being with 200 friends, you know, and it really is. It's everyone's happy to see you. Imagine if, like, when you went home, you know, I've been married twice. You go home and your wife's like, oh, hey, how long are you going to be here? So imagine every time you came home, everyone in the house went, yeah, and they cheered. And then when you went upstairs to put on your bathrobe or get coffee or something, everyone was like, oh, that was great. He's, you know, I've done a lot of soul searching in the 10 months I've been clean and sober. And one of the things that have been really clear to me was I am a stand-up comedian. Acting, author, all that stuff. No, not so much. It's all extra. It's all a benefit of being a great stand-up comic. And I love stand-up comedy. My shows, there is bedlam. And I'm excited. I'm hoping you guys can get to the single digits. Don't spoil me with 10 degrees.
I'll see what we can do.
9 degrees or I walk.
I got Marty next to us who does the weather forecast. We'll try to get you those single digits. Jay,
Marty, just lie. 1 degree is not going to make a difference. Just say 8 or 9 degrees. Just hook a brother up. I want it so cold that witches have to buy bras.
Can you see him? He's over here. We're gonna update that for you, Jay.
Oh, I see him. I see handsome Marty over there.
Jay,
look at those temperatures for you.
Good to see him with clothes on, finally.
Oh, you've seen his Instagram then.
Oh, yeah.
Jay, what a pleasure to talk to you. We're so excited you're coming back to Rochester, and it's an incredible story that you're sharing, and I think it's so important. You're here to make people laugh, but also really connect with people, and I think that's meaningful. Thank you so much for joining us on Good Day Rochester ahead of your shows here.
Thanks for letting you and I connect, my brother. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much. Safe travels to you as well.
Thank you.